Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live, talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynn@pghcitypaper.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Hello, and sorry. Excuse me. It's hasn't happened very often in my career that I missed, the opening time of the show. I'm blaming it all on weather and traffic as a result of the weather. So, Susan, are you there?
I am, because here it's totally gorgeous, and I had no problem with the traffic and getting right back up to my bedroom where I am sitting here waiting to talk to you.
Okay, well, that's good. What I didn't know, I don't know. So I don't know what the hell's going on. I mean, it was gridlock from the time I left the house. And then I finally get onto the street here where I usually can find parking, and the entire street has been posted with no parking signs. I mean, it's just like, well, I know it's just like, it really is becoming impossible to get around in a car in downtown Pittsburgh. It's a fool's errand, it seems, half the time. There's no place to put it. They make it prohibitively expensive. I mean, I get the point, but are old people supposed to ride bicycles? I just don't understand what we're supposed to do.
Well, that's like where I live now.
Right, in Chicago's like that, too.
I have to say, the last time that I was in Pittsburgh with you, and I was driving you to an event because you were still infirm, that traffic was pretty crazy. And the way I was weaving myself through gridlock at your screamed instructions to get you to where you were going.
Don't you remember? We were going to my one-woman show.
Right, and we were late.
And I was late. There was a whole theater full of people, and we weren't there. And I was sick with a bag, a tube coming out of my gut. And it was like the biggest. And it's true. Susan was driving because I couldn't, but I was going to do a show, and I was screaming. I know I was. I was just screaming.
I drove that car over and under other automobiles across what seemed like 8 lanes of totally gridlock traffic.
Oh, how did we ever get there? Oh, my God.
With you shrieking.
Oh, God. What a nightmare. Well, it was a lot like that, only I didn't feel the pressure today because, the whatever. So anyway.
It's interesting because I used to really feel honest anxiety every time I got into a car to drive to an appointment about time.
Right.
And it's only recently that I have said to myself, cut that out.
Yeah.
You're going to get there when you get there. Or why are you making your body a landmine of misery on top of all of this stuff? Just relax.
Exactly. Exactly.
And damned if you can't just relax. Get there.
Right.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And so I'm telling all of you that are younger than 67, if you haven't gotten to the point where you figured out you can just tell yourself to cut it out and relax, I'm passing that tip on to you. You can actually do that. Yeah.
I'm Amy, can I have her higher in my headset, or can't you get her higher?
You want me to talk louder?
No, that's hardly the issue. Oh my. So I there's so much to talk about. I feel like anytime I usually start the show on it feels like Monday to me since I wasn't here yesterday. But after 2 days or even 3 days of not talking about everything that's happening, you're just overwhelmed by where to start.
And here, it's easy. Everything's as crapped up as it was 3 days ago.
No, it's usually more so.
Is any different.
No, it's more so. That's usually the case. It's worse. I don't know. And I don't even know if anybody's listening because, they tuned in at 10 and there was nothing happening. So, God. So, there's a few things I just want to say to the people here. First of all, about Mac Miller passing. Getting back here, it's so much, Susan, it's so much of a larger story here, but also because
he's
a local boy,
hometown son,
made
right.
good, and even more so in my neighborhood, because that was his neighborhood as well. And there's just an incredible outpouring of grief. It's awful. And I can't get him out of my head. I'm thinking about him and his family a lot. I'm learning some things that I didn't know about him. He was very well respected by people in the business,
and musicologists.
And
yes.
everybody is saying, what a sweet, generous soul, nice human being he was. He was like a people magnet. People loved him. And so the grief is genuine. There is a memorial it seems like it's going to go all night, starting at 5:30 at Blue Slide Park, which, Susan, is part of a big, huge park, Frick Park here, that has a big, huge blue concrete slide built into one of the hillsides, and painted blue. Yeah, and I, my son used to love that thing, and Mac Miller did a song called Blue Slide Park. Actually, I think that was the name of the album, Blue Slide Park. And so there's a big memorial at Blue Slide Park tonight. The city has freshly painted it blue because it wears off after a while with all those little tushies going down it. And it starts
or big, as the case may be.
Or what? Or big? Yeah. And the I just went by it on Thursday because I was taking my dog to they have a dog run park further in the park, and you walk by the blue slide, and oh God. So one of the things that's cute, I have often felt like, some connection to him just because my son and he were in the same preschool and were little friends together when they were very young, and then went off their separate ways because they did not go to the same school after preschool. And I remember a few shared birthday parties, but he was such a goofy-looking little kid. And once my son and I were coming back from a trip. I don't know where we'd been, but we flew into the airport and we're driving home. And I would think my son and Malcolm, that was his name, my son and Malcolm were the same age and would have been about 6 or 7, I think. And as we were driving down the Parkway West, I see this billboard with Malcolm's goofy face, looking at me. And I said, Sam, look, it's Malcolm on a billboard. And I think it was like for Highmark or something. It was some insurance ad where they needed a kid, if your kid is sick and the kid was Malcolm.
Well, he was obviously in an agency. He had an agent.
Well, I don't know. Here's the other possibility. Here's what I figured. His mom, Karen, is a photographer. And I think she does. Maybe she got that. Who knows? Yeah, it could either be she said, "You want a kid? I got a kid right here." But so that was.
Well, she's the agent in that regard.
Yeah. So there's Malcolm on.
There.
Yeah. So Malcolm's on the billboard, and just last Thursday when I left the show and I was driving home, there was that same goofy face, only older, 26 years old, staring at me from another billboard on the Boulevard of the Allies. There are a number of billboards up now that were, I guess, they're advertising his last album, what turned out to be his last album, Swimming. and it's just his big, goofy face still. And
Right.
and so I'm thinking, there's Malcolm on a... Oh, I don't know. Because he's Sam's age, I can't even bear it. And Susan, for this to happen at Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year, is doubly horrific because Malcolm was Jewish, and he was the only Jew at I believe St. Bede's is where he went. His parents sent him to elementary and school at St. Bede's, and there was a piece I saw somewhere where he was the only Jew, of course, in this class, and he learned a lot about Catholicism, obviously. And at one point, he told the teacher he wanted to tell his classmates something about his religion. And it was Hanukkah, and he brought a menorah in, and he taught them all how to say the blessing. And the teacher was remembering this as so sweet. And that he also then had T-shirts made or something for them. But he was just always this, I don't know, damn it. Elton John paid tribute to him last night in his concert. Childish Gambino, who might be one of the most talented people in the universe, literally was bereft. Let me share with you what he said. Rolling Stone wrote it up. Childish Gambino, as you know, is also, is Donald Glover, okay? Brilliant person. Just friggin' brilliant. And Saturday night at a concert in Chicago, Susan, Childish Gambino said this. First of all, he asked people not to use their phones to film what he was about to say, because he said, I do not want to commodify this moment. And he went on to say, I'm a very sensitive person, but this Mac Miller shit got me fucked up. He was so nice. He was the sweetest guy. He was so nice. And we were both internet music kids, and a lot of critics were like, this corny-ass white dude, this corny-ass black dude. And we used to talk, and this kid, he just loved music. And we should be allowed to be sad about it. Like, my heart is broken. And I feel good about being sad because it tells me he was special, and I had a special moment. Everybody deserves it. I don't know. He sort of went off. He said,
He lost a good friend.
Yeah, I just want to say I love you, Mac, and I just want to tell you that I love you. And this song's for him because I feel like sometimes he wanted to let go.
Yeah, he clearly suffered from a terrible depression.
And you know what? That's what's so weird, because he suffered from this horrible depression, and yet people's memory of him is how they always felt such joy around him. He was always making everybody feel comfortable and laughing. And when his friend from forever here got cancer, I think last year, he red-eyed back to Pittsburgh. He shaved the guy's head for him before the chemo took it. He shaved his own head. He stayed. He was just like, and for somebody, isn't that odd that somebody who is like struggling so much inside can't give that to himself, only gives it to others?
No, it's not odd. That's the disease. That it takes away your ability
to love
see
yourself?
Any hope or to feel anything but pain.
Oh.
That's the disease.
Yeah.
And to feel that uncomprehendingly awful is hard for those of us that don't have it. But imagine that.
So he sought solace in drugs. And
that helped with the pain.
That helped with the pain. That was self-medication. And
right.
Anyway, I am feeling
that's
very...
what a ton of the opioid crisis is.
Yeah.
It's to a large extent, I think, people with intense anxiety that opioids treat. And they get hooked on prescription, and when they can't get it, they go to heroin. And that's, I mean, I think they're self-medicating what we as a society refuse to recognize and treat as the diseases, in group of diseases that they are: depression, bipolar, and really chiefly anxiety.
Yeah.
This world makes people stressed out from the time that they're small children, and it only gets worse.
And I actually think that in some respects, anxiety might be heightened in cultures like ours as opposed to like some poor culture where the anxiety that's produced is basic stuff like where do I get my next meal, okay? As opposed to all the crap that we deal with. You know what I mean? Is that possible?
We deal with a lot of crap, but we also have a large segment of our population that is dealing with where do I get my next meal.
Well, that's true, too. Yeah, that is true, too.
I mean, we all have our stressors in the society, but yeah, and where it isn't occurring naturally, we induce it through, like video games, which some people might feel is more like a meditative thing, but I think turns this anxious feeling into something that's pleasurable as opposed to not.
Well, I think you're onto something there, and I think also with like a video game, it puts you in an anxious situation though that isn't real, and you know that.
No,
and you have control, the measure of control.
Sort of.
Right.
You have a chance of control. You can try and master it. So as an allegory, it actually makes perfect sense, but I think it's heightening the disease and not helping it.
Well, I mean, our entire culture based on competition, right? Based on who's on top, based on who's got the most, based on mine's bigger than yours.
Right, and we've got a whole group of parents that are trying to shelter their children from encountering that until they're thrown out into the real world and get drop-kicked like a thud at the 5-yard line without anybody helicoptering for them.
Are you the one who told me this weekend?
Yeah, lawnmower.
Okay, so
lawnmower parent.
Overtaking, and I hadn't heard the term, overtaking helicopter parents.
Lawnmower is
the same thing.
Are the parents that mow down the blade of grass that their kid is going to trip over before the kid ever gets there. Helicopter parents take care of it once it happens. These parents erase life for the child.
Well, I think they're one and the same. I mean, I think the parents that are lawnmowers are also helicopters. I mean, where they don't allow their children to learn how to live, and they don't allow them to experience the real world, right? To experience reality, which is hard. Why don't they understand that sheltering them is handicapping them? Why don't they get that? It's mind-boggling to me. Oh, well.
And that sometimes it actually makes sense to say, you don't do something as well as this other kid. Maybe you want to work at that. I watched that at my dinner table last night when my grandson was being compared to his first cousin, who is about 6 months older, and Frank is a great swimmer, and Ellis is just in the learning process at age 4.
Yes.
And he had done well in class that day, and he was being encouraged to be able to swim like a fish like his cousin Frank could. And I could see in his own head that he was feeling vaguely downtrodden. So I did remind him that he rode a two-wheeler without any training wheels, and his cousin Frank didn't do that. So we all have our things that we're good at, but we should try to get good at the stuff that we're not. But if you can't point out the kid that he's lousy at something, how do you give him the encouragement to get better?
God.
I ask you.
Oh, sad. I'm so sad for
I mean,
all
in
the
our
little
family,
kids.
I mean, that can go into the extreme. It's why I don't play tennis or golf, because they're games that have to be learned publicly, and humiliation is just the next stroke away. And so,
Really?
yeah.
But humiliation,
I
wait a minute, but humiliation was part of our family.
I know. So why did I go need? Why was?
What'd you
more
need more? Yeah,
Right.
right. I mean, our family was so is it competitive? Yeah, it was so competitive.
Yeah, totally.
Ugh, it's a wonder we don't hate
law
each other.
because nobody in the family had actually gone to law school.
Well, your
and
dad
was
did.
More than a little PO'd when, a year after I get there,
Bill went.
Genius Bill decides to go to Yale. It's going, well, gee.
Well, I'll tell you. We all survive, huh?
We do.
But you mentioned tennis, so let's go there.
Yeah.
Susan and I and our mother and our brother and everybody, we watched the U.S. Open, even though none of us are people who normally watch tennis. And Susan, you weren't really watching much. I saw that you were on your phone. But that, and I don't watch tennis, but I watched that. And oh my God, what a debacle in every way. I've read a lot of stuff that people have written about it, and there's one absolute takeaway that no one can disagree with, right? And that is that this young 20-year-old woman was robbed, if there's thievery to be had here, was robbed of the joy that she rightfully should have felt in beating her hero on this huge stage, something she had dreamed about, and to see at the end of that match the so-called, award ceremony, where both women, two strong, incredible women, were reduced to tears. There was no joy to be had. There were only tears. And I do have to say, I think Serena didn't behave totally well, but I do think the basic thing that happened there was, of course, a man fucking it up for him. That's what I think.
Listen, Serena acted like a passionate tennis player. Screaming at the guy at center court is part of the game, and there were people that made the cover of Sports Illustrated year after year for doing so, like McEnroe, like Connors, but they were men.
Right. So it brings up all this how women are just constantly treated, held to a higher standard. I just feel so sorry, and Serena's had to deal with so much shit because she's not.
Like he impugned her character, and at what point do you not stand up for something if you think that you've been called a cheat, and that's the last thing in your mind?
I think I do think she overreacted to that. I think she overreacted to that, and she knew that doing the tennis racket thing was sure, but where it went off the rails is his inability to realize that this was a huge and important. No one had come to see him get in the way of this matchup, and he ended up ruining it. It's like, I don't know.
Yep.
I just, and she has dealt in her career with more crap. Why? Because she does not look like what men think a woman is supposed to look like in any way. First of all, she's black. Second of all, she's big.
Third of all, she's sheer power, barely contained
Right.
by her skin.
Right. Like just about. And all her career, she has been, I think, dealing with. Oh, did you see the Australian cartoon that came out yesterday? Some guy did a cartoon, an editorial cartoon, in which, people are just saying it's so racist, it's beyond belief. He has Serena pictured as everybody says it's akin to the way blacks used to be, like little black Sambo. It is like this disgusting caricature of a black woman. And in the background, you see, why am I blanking on Osaka's first name? Naomi. You see Naomi Osaka and the judge, the ref, or whatever his name is Ramos. And he's saying to Osaka, couldn't you just let her win? And guess what? Osaka is portrayed as a blonde. She looks like this svelte little blonde. She's been made white.
Well, she's not.
She's not. She's not white. She's everything but white. But there was this need by this racist asshole to make Serena look like this grotesque black person. And so he had to make her actually black opponent white. I'm not kidding you. You got to see it. It's mind-blowing. And the newspaper, Barbara just sent me this. The newspaper is doubled down saying the cartoon had nothing to do with gender or race. They've doubled down.
Yeah.
A champion tennis player had a mega tantrum on the world stage, and the cartoon depicts that. Well, then explain why Naomi Osaka has become white in the background. Jesus Christ. Anyway, so everybody, it was just miserable. But let's talk about let's talk about Les Moonves. This is the latest.
Right. I was just going to. What you were talking about for some reason actually made me think about him.
Yeah. Why would that be? Yeah. I am so, I'm getting up to here. And I have to admit that I drove back from Ann Arbor yesterday, and I was listening to a podcast in which 5 women all talked about the same man who was the chief of Alternet. Do you remember? I don't even know if that's still around. Is it? It is a news service, one of the earlier ones. And he was just a despicable serial sexual harasser. And each of them tells their story of him. And the last woman is his wife, who's in tears, and she's staying with him. It was the most mind-boggling thing, but the whole drive back, my head was spinning about how does that guy, and you can't listen to that thing without feeling such anger and revulsion. And a lot of it, felt very familiar to me too. And listening to the women talking about how they didn't speak up, they didn't do this, they didn't do that, reminded me of my reasoning too when I was younger, because it was something you just had to put up with, was the feeling.
You dealt with and handled deftly if you were lucky.
One of the women said to her parents when she was, I can't remember, this was before him, she said that she felt some guy she said, "Mom, Dad, I'm being sexually harassed." And her parents laughed and said something like, "Well, come on, get used to it." I think her mother said. And I think that's sort of, she incorporated that. I think I incorporated that.
Well, that was society's message. I mean, that was, wasn't that sort of Helen Gurley Brown's message?
Yeah, I do think it was. And do you know what? There was somebody wrote a really good piece, I don't have it here, about why is it that the ones we're learning about, all of these despicable men, seem to be all in, the entertainment world and in journalism. Yeah, and in journalism.
I don't think that's true.
No, here's why. Because it's celebrity, and that makes news. When we know the people involved, it doesn't make news.
Yes.
It doesn't make news, Susan, if somebody writes about, let's say, some sexual harasser in the office behind me who's making the lives of 3 or 4 women who work back there miserable.
It made news in a small Midwestern town when the CEO of a office furniture company was sued for sexual harassment by a man because that CEO was serially, chasing and bedding every single woman in the office. This man sued him for creating a hostile environment and won.
Wait, a man sued him even though it was women he was abusing? I'm not understanding this.
Well, it created a hostile. This guy had to sit around and watch this.
Okay, but isn't that interesting? So that made news because the man
sued.
Yes. God.
And won, by the way.
Okay, fine, but And
that man's wife stood by him also.
Well,
Mom tells the story of Pritzker, who was a serial adulterer. We don't know if he was a predator, but he was an adulterer, obviously a rich and powerful man. But his wife, who stuck by him, was known to say, "Yeah, but I'm Mrs. Pritzker."
I think you're talking about somebody else.
Well, no.
Someone we know said, "But I'm Mrs. R."
And that's also the wife of the person that got sued.
Okay, well, we're talking out of school here, but yeah, okay. So women often make that calculation. Fine, okay. But I got his money. I got his position.
And I have the status that comes with it.
And Les Moonves, who's turning out to be like a Harvey Weinstein character.
Except that he's denying it with outrage that these women have the gall to sully his, good character.
Yeah, fine. Well, let me tell you something. The fact of the matter is he's going to lose his job and be given over $100 million as a going away present.
Oh, I know. I don't understand why being dismissed for serially,
how does that not negate, wipe out a contractual
not for cause?
Yeah.
No, that's he gets that money unless he's dismissed for cause. How is this not for cause?
I don't know. I'm just getting so sick of it all. I really am. And I mean, I won't live long enough to see it.
I wish someone could explain this to me. How sexually harassing and and demanding sexual favors and doing things that, but for the statute of limitations, would be actionable in a criminal court, isn't for cause. I mean, what else would CBS need? So I don't understand where that $120 million severance is coming into play.
Well, they're saying...
And if I were a stockholder, I would be a little unhappy.
I don't know. I gotta say, Ronan Farrow sure has made himself a beat, hasn't he?
Wow. Well, he couldn't get Woody Allen. He's going to get all the others.
That's what's driving him, huh? Do you think?
I think so.
Wow.
I do think so. That his sister and that all happened, right before, Woody Allen gets Roman Polanski treatment instead of Harvey Weinstein treatment.
I don't mean to be
Timing
beating
is
up on all
everything.
you guys and stuff, but I just. Susan, there's a lot of men who I'm sure are stunned by all this. I mean, they've lived their whole lives and never even considered exposing themselves in a meeting with a
I don't think that our father behaved this way. I don't think my
husband. Your husband would have.
behaved this way.
Well,
No, I have no doubt that there are honorable men out there. But you and I knew that these people exist. We have friends like this. I mean, I'm thinking of one of Eric's and my great friends that became a friend of yours. So it's certainly a guy that fits in the category of you probably did some things you shouldn't have because you could get away with it.
Yeah. But he's so charming. But he's so charming.
Yeah,
but
it probably really was always consensual.
I mean, you always laughed with him. I mean, I'm sure his wife didn't.
Well, no one took him seriously.
No one.
So there's a different thing, I mean, he still propositions our mother.
He's a wondrous character. I don't think he fits in that.
Flattered and charmed by it.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, you are, because it's so outrageous and ridiculous. But no, the ones that are, oh God, I'm so sick of it. I'm sorry, guys. I think it was that.
I'm really sick of. Yeah, I'll tell you what really irritates me most of all is that the fallback position for a company that says that it's found itself with, excuse the expression, its pants down, is that they're going to institute sexual harassment classes.
Oh God!
These people don't know you're not supposed to do this. What is that class composed of? Don't do this. If that worked, they should have, being normal people in a normal society, already know that they're not allowed to do this. So, the sexual harassment class, I'm sorry, folks.
Really.
It
all does show, when people say rape is not about sex, it's about power.
Right.
And this is what sexual harassment is obviously about, too. It's about...
I think it's also about a little bit of sex.
Well, yeah, but so is
every whim because they have the power.
Yeah.
And I think that's why they're so surprised, because they don't think of themselves as rapists and predators. They think of themselves as lucky.
Well, one of the women in the podcast said something that I completely understood. She said she and her friends, when they were like in their 20s, were sitting around and talking about things that had happened to them in college and this and that. And, oh, yeah, I remember that time, blah, blah, blah. And one of them ends up saying, well, that was rape. And they all realized that they'd never put that word on what had happened to them. It was just that time when the guy just insisted and they thought, oh, God, I don't want to, but I don't know. You know what I mean? The girls who'd been
get out of here.
Taught, right. Girls who've been taught to be pleasant, to make people happy. I can't tell you how many, when you hear those statistics about how many women say they've been raped, it's so unbelievable. And I think it's even higher than that, because a lot of women.
I think so too. I think there's a 90% chance that it happens to any freshman girl who involves herself in the sorority fraternity scene.
Probably.
That she ends up blacked out at a party somewhere next to someone that did something.
Or not even blacked out, just in a situation where they don't see any way out except to, oh, well.
Right.
I
think that's like normal.
I do too, but that's rape. I guess, and a lot of people would say,
Well,
no, that's not
yeah, it's
rape.
certainly not
That's
consensual.
not rape because you didn't fight back. You just gave up. But I got news for you. That is rape because women have been taught to be submissive, to take it. I think I hope younger women are different. Some of the younger women in this podcast had a sense of their own worth and their own value, and I was just amazed at how they said, I knew what he was up to, and I was thinking, buddy. Well, I would not have had that assurance. You had more.
I grew into that
you had
assurance
more of it than I did, but you're almost 4 years younger than me.
Yeah.
And you also had my experience.
Wait a minute. I had a very generous older sister, namely you, who would faithfully trot back to me and report with such entertaining humor the most miserable of things that happened to you in your life. And you would tell me all these things as a cautionary tale. And, I mean, you took more hits for me and then faithfully reported them. I can't tell you out there what an incredible big sister you were. I mean, other ways, not so much. This way, huge.
Oh, shit. Well, it took a toll on me.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
Geez, I was close to crying when I came in because of Mac Miller. Now I'm close to crying in general. I really am. I'm really feeling very, done in today by the world. And we even haven't mentioned Donald Trump. And we're not going to. Oh, yes, we are.
No.
Wait, we are, Suze. I got it.
Right now, he's destroying the memory of September 11th.
Oh, he said something like, and
I
I ended up then with the tallest building or something. He said something. I saw somewhere where he said, and then my building was the tallest building or something.
Oh, God.
No. Okay, so these last poll numbers that have come out where he's finally dropping, that was only 36% approval. But there's that absolute, now we know it's about a 32, 33, 34%, literally 1/3 of Americans who will answer the question, is Donald Trump truthful, with yes. Do you approve of the job he's doing? Yes. That totally, these are so 1/3 of Americans will, as he said, if he shot somebody in cold blood, you would say,
absolutely,
it's okay.
Yeah, that's why this is like a cult. I mean, it's very Jim Jonesian that you can't see, how you've just accepted whatever he says is the truth, and the rest of us are lying. I mean, it's amazing to me, but that's where they are. They truly get it. They believe it.
Oh, my. Okay, This is an email from Roger. A few months ago, we were talking about role models in my running group when a young man around 30 lamented that the media destroyed any high-profile role models when he was growing up, specifically Bill Clinton and Michael Jordan. And whatever. Michael Jordan was past his prime. LeBron James was on the rise and was maybe okay. I suggested that Serena Williams had been a great role model for a long time, and he replied, she's okay looking. What? Ah! I asked, so you think LeBron's attractive? Laughter and silence followed by the group. I think she's super hot. It has nothing to... Who cares? I don't do with being a role model. I embarrass a dude. The world needs less dudes, he says. Actually, Roger, this is one of my pet peeves. You mean the world needs fewer dudes. The word fewer is...
But she likes the sentiment, but you just hit a pet peeve. Thank God you didn't use I instead of me.
Yeah, then Susan would be on you, too. No one uses fewer anymore. It's gone. The word's gone. They use less, and it's wrong! The world needs fewer dudes. By the way, this is Amy. Susan's voice is in and out. Amy knows it. How in and out is it? Is it not in my headset? Okay. Fuck it, Duck.
Uh-oh.
We've been having
incredible coherence.
Yes, Susan's great. I mean, can you get what she's saying anyway? Yeah, Susan, they can get it. They just, It must be sort of annoying. Son of a. Okay, I'll try to get. We don't have a sound engineer. Excuse me, she said, screaming. So Amy's headset just went blowing off her head. Oh. Okay. What else? Okay, so Susan, you saw Plaid Shirt Guy, didn't you?
Well, I know who Plaid Shirt Guy is, but I have to confess I have yet to see like any of the faces that he was making.
Well,
in
it's
every
so
picture
cute.
I see, he just looks like a normal person.
Well, that's right.
Smiling.
Yeah, well, that's right. But it was so subtle. What it was is, and it's such a cute story when you find out how he got where he got. He's just a high school kid, 17 years old, in Billings, Montana. And, you know, the Orange Monster was coming to town. And he and two of his friends thought, hey, that'd be neat to, like, go see this jerk. And so there was a thing where you sign up for tickets. And somehow, in a kind of lottery situation, he ended up getting a VIP status. And ended up behind him. And he was just sitting there in his plaid shirt and listening. And he said they told them, he said the organizers, before Trump came out, instructed everybody to clap and cheer, and be enthusiastic. But he said, well, I mean, I couldn't clap for things that I didn't agree with, so I just didn't clap. He was just listening. And Susan, the faces he made were so subtle. He was just sitting there. And all it is at one point, his eyebrow goes. It's so cute. He's just sitting there, and this eyebrow goes like, huh? And then once he mouthed the word, with this funny look on his face, he mouthed the word, what? What? And so that's how subtle it was. It wasn't like, it was so.
Okay, well, that explains it.
Yeah, it was so cute. And he wasn't doing it constantly. He just wasn't being enthusiastic. And then he did something, though. This is what got him, where they noticed. Somebody noticed. He turns out to be a member of the Social Democrats of America. He's a social democrat. And he had a little Democratic Socialist, that's what they're called. Yeah, Democratic Socialists of America, the DSA. And so at one point during the speech, he thought, oh, yeah, I got that pin in my pocket. So he took out the pin and stuck it on his shirt. And someone who was, watching the video feed saw the pin, knew what it was, and got the woman to come and get him out of there. And he was not only reseated, he was pulled aside, as were his friends, by police officers and Secret Service personnel. Do you believe that?
No, that's ridiculous. Why
for raising an eyebrow? For not
supporter?
Yeah, for not being
in hear Trump?
Right. For having what? For having a button on? For raising his eyebrow? He was pulled aside while police officers and Secret Service officials checked his identification. And after about 10 minutes, he said, and the kid is a cute kid, he said, after about 10 minutes, they respectfully told me to just leave and not come back. Yeah. This is Donald Trump's America. And here are the other quotes from it. It's just so funny. He said, none of this was me trying to protest. Those were just my honest reactions to the things he was saying, which is true. You can see that. He's just sitting there thinking, what the fuck? Huh? Why? And but not over the top, just very, very subtle. And he's going to turn 18 next month. Yes. And so he'll be voting in his first election in November, and he's very excited. But people have said this also just goes to show how absolutely incompetent everything around Trump is, because no campaign doesn't vet the people that are in the camera shot, right?
Well, it never occurred to them that everybody in Montana who comes to see Trump isn't a fan.
Right, I guess so. He's now changed.
But the Montanans I know certainly aren't Trump fans.
Well, that's right. You know some Montanans, and they're not Trump fans. Oh, I forgot it's September 11th. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why everybody's in Pennsylvania.
Oh.
They're commemorating those chimes.
Yeah.
Even though they aren't ready. Sort of like Cuomo and the Tribeca.
God. Bob says, did he, remembering me being on the radio that day, he said, remember, I was on the air with the other two show hosts came in. I had the 9 to 12 shift, and the 12 to 3 and the 3 to 6, Doug Hirth and Jerry Boyer came in, and believe me, we didn't agree. I didn't agree with those two guys on almost anything politically. But there was no tension there that day. We were all in. And Bob says, do you remember you said to the audience, forget politics. My country was attacked today. Yeah. Well, I wonder today oh, knows. But what is with this insistence on continued, do you think over the top remembrance of that day?
I do.
I do too.
I think we don't have to,
get on with it
every day. Yeah, I mean, we have Remember Pearl Harbor, but the whole world doesn't stop and have these. I guess they have commemorations. But,
yeah, but I guess.
Yeah. I mean, Pearl, yeah. So in similar circumstances where we felt similarly attacked, we have and do continue to remember. But we don't.
Yeah, but not in the way we do with this.
Everybody that died in Pearl Harbor on that day every year.
No, and also we didn't change the way, that's when we started doing all this crap at the baseball games and the football. Oh, and no, you can't just do the 7th inning stretch. You gotta and take me out to the ballpark. No, you gotta sing God Bless America. And
God Bless America.
Everything's militarized. I mean, what the they didn't do that after Pearl Harbor. They went and fought a war and won it, as opposed to the 5,000-year war we're in now. Excuse me. So.
Well, there was an interesting piece about that today too, written by a veteran whose brother died in the in the tower.
Who said he always wanted to kill Muhammad? He wanted to kill Muhammad Atta.
No, he said he joined because his brother was killed, and he fought, and he learned that he loved soldiers and he loved the camaraderie, and and eventually, after serving 3 terms in total, three deployments in total, what he learned was that the enemy that he was trying to vanquish had died in the towers with his brother, and that if we continued to sacrifice American lives, we were doing what Atta wanted. We were doing what Osama bin Laden wanted, which was to drain our treasury, fighting an unwinnable war and continuing to kill people in the name of something that should now stop. Stop sacrificing more people to an unwinnable war.
Yeah, but we're too stupid. No,
on today.
Well, okay, well that's so
Stop
true.
Creating more people that died because of this.
It's so true, but I'm sorry. We're a nation just. We're a bunch of fucking idiots. Anyway, excuse me. I'm in a mood, aren't I? We're going to have to wrap this up, even though I started a little bit late. But I do have to get to this, Susan, and I meant to get to it last Wednesday, and it never got in. And now it's ruined because who did it on that NPR show? They already did it on Wait, Don't Tell Me, and I've seen other people do it because it was just too wonderful.
No, go ahead, do it.
Okay, so who's the one celebrity I love to hate, just love to hate her, have hated her for so long, Gwyneth Paltrow.
Oh, right.
And I am so thrilled that it doesn't matter. She's got this absurd business, Goop, called Goop, G-O-O-P, that has made her a gazillionaire and has, again, sort of like Donald Trump's election has told us, that Americans are fucking idiots.
Praise on women's love of all things
Goop success tells us that, and a lot of her people probably didn't vote for Donald Trump, but they show how fucking stupid people are. So whatever bullshit, she sells them. And the latest, and that's not the latest, it's an old one, but somebody finally got her in that she has to pay a fine for suggesting that the $66 jade eggs, oval eggs, that she sells by the boatload, apparently, to women, which they are supposed to shove up their vaginas. Susan, haven't you ever had a great desire to shove a stone up your...
Put a stone in there? Yeah.
Yeah.
It comes with a string.
No, it doesn't. And women buy this crapola because Gwyneth tells them that it increases their sexual energy. Or, for slightly less money, $55, you can do a rose quartz egg stone, and that gives you positive energy and heart-activating stuff. Hormonal balance, muscle tone, bullshit, and more bullshit. And she now actually, according to some California court, has to pay a whole $145,000 in civil penalties and stop telling women that putting stones in their vaginas is going to make them, I don't know.
Right, and not having any science behind all of these things that she absolutely advocates constantly. But I have to say, I can't imagine. But I guess I hang out with people that actually think, But I don't know anybody of my generation or my kids' generation that is a Goop or Paltrow fan.
Well, she has these huge seminars that women pay $10,000, $15,000.
I know.
Just to go. Also, a doctor said, okay, fine, you want to sleep with a jade egg up your you-know-what? You know what? You could get bacterial vaginosis or toxic shock syndrome.
Right.
Jesus Christ. But she's still selling them. They're still out there on the Goop website. She's just not saying that they will balance your hormones or regulate your menstrual cycles. Oh, here's what it used to say. The eggs cultivate sexual energy, clear chi pathways in the body, intensify femininity, and invigorate our life force. Okay, I'm just telling you, Americans are fucking fools. And I think that's a whole different... I don't think Trump voters are buying Goop shit. I think those are new agey, lefty, crapola idiots. And we are surrounded by more idiots. in this world, I'm frightened. I'm leaving.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. Susan, thank you.
Middle-aged women that want to vaginally rejuvenate.
Hey, Suze, are you and Mom driving up to Green Bay?
We are going to drive up to Green Bay as soon as I manage to redo my suitcase and
Okay.
and pay my taxes. Bye.
Oh yeah, thanks. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, love to Mom and you and everybody else, and safe travels.
Yeah, we'll talk to you at the other end.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. And I want to wish a Happy New Year to my Jewish friends. I still don't know what year it is. Goodbye.
Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live, talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynn@pghcitypaper.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.